Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today is Sunday, and you know what that means, baby. Sundays are the good, the bad, and the ugly days. So we're doing a good, bad, and ugly. Today, it's on the Scion TC, because somebody actually said they wanted to see this car, and I was like, really? Okay, I'll make it happen. And yes, by the way, we are going over both generations in the same video, since there's not that much too different about them. But yeah, let's get right into it. I almost forgot to mention www.smoothstance.com/shop if you want to support the channel. Thank you guys so much for all the support we get on that. I say it every video, but I'll keep saying it until you guys understand how much you truly mean to me. Anyway, let's get right into it. Alright, so the Scion TC is a very, very small little two-door, four-seater sport coupe. That's weird, that's hard to say, but it's a sports car, and it was made pretty much 100% by Toyota, but given the Scion name because Toyota wanted Scion to be their little sports car brand, and I just thought that was kind of silly. But anyway, the car was made from the years 2004 to 2016, and within those 12 years it went through two different generations, which we will be talking about both of them in this video. First off is the first generation. It's 2004 to 2010. It was made and it was given the chassis code AT10. And it went through one very minor facelift in that 6-year period for the first generation. Just wanted to put that out there because some of them do look a little bit different. And then the second generation was made from 2010 to 2016 and was given the chassis code AT20. And once again, it went through only one facelift in the time. I don't know why, but actually the second generation's facelift looks a lot better than the pre-facelift on the second generation, so that one makes sense. Both the first and second generations came with some optional, trims. I put quotation marks around that because they shouldn't even be called a trim, since all they did was change the color on them. That's right. That's the only difference on most of those trims, is a color change. It's kind of weird. Also, both the first and second generation Scion TCs were available as a coupe and a coupe only. There was no convertible, no sedans, no wagons, none of that. They're just the same body style all throughout. And they also were all front wheel drive only. So no all wheel drive, no rear wheel drive, which does kind of stink a little bit like farts. It also should be noted that even though they didn't come with many different trim options, TRD, or Toyota Racing Development, did make a bunch of racing parts for the Scion TC if you want yours to be a bit faster, but you just gotta pay for those little extra parts, and that really sucks. When they should have just put it on the car and made a TRD version is what I really think they should have done, but I don't know. When your abbreviations it can be said like turd, I guess you're gonna have some flaws. But now it's time to talk about what you want to know, the engines and the horsepower in the two generations. Well, to be honest with you, they're pretty slow. The first generation came with a 2.4 liter inline-4 that made 161 horsepower, and the second generation came with a 2.5 liter inline-4 that made 180 horsepower, which, yes, I know is pretty damn low. But to be honest with you, what do you expect when your car has a freaking Camry engine in it? Yeah, I just want to say that. I wanted to put that out there. I didn't know how else to put it out there. But this car had a Camry engine in it, shared a lot of parts from the Toyota Camry, and that's kind of silly. Anyway, the one redeeming factor about Scion TCs is that both generations were available with a manual transmission, which is nice to see. Thank you, Toyota. But next, it's time to get into the modifying scene of things for this little car, to be exact. And to be honest, it's pretty much only modified to be a show car. Yes, people will try to make these cars fast, but soon realize that their car is slower than my PT Cruiser, and they stop midway through, which honestly, that completely explains why I always see those half-assed Scion TC builds running around my town that look like they were a start to something and then they just never got around to it. That makes sense now that I think about it, because they probably were like, oh yeah, I'm gonna build the Scion TC into a race car. They look like race cars, and then they're like, wait, I can't turn this into a race car, and then they just stopped. It's kind of weird, but it makes sense now that I think about it. Anyway, in the show scene, these cars actually don't look too bad, so lowering them and putting a little bit of aero to get rid of that egg look that they have is something that people do all the time. The second generation obviously looks a lot, and I mean a lot, better when done right, but even the first generation can look good with the right amount of mods, and the show scene kind of picked up on that, and they were like, hey, here's a car that not a lot of people modify, let's start modifying it. When they probably should have realized, you know, most of the time when they're not modifying it, that's for good reason. But actually, these ones, they came out good, so I have to give respect to them. Obviously, drifting is not done in these cars since it's front-wheel drive, and drag racing is pretty much non-existent too because it has a Camry engine in it, and there's really no reason to build one of these to be a drag monster since there's so many better options. If you want a front-wheel drive inline four to be a drag car, buy a Civic. All right, that's it, or a GTI, one of those cars. It's the reason why they're so popular. But yeah, in the modifying scene, it's pretty much just show builds, and show builds actually surprisingly do work really well with these cars. You lower them, put some nice wheels on them, and they look good, especially in the second generation. The first generation can suffer a little bit, but you just got to do a little bit more work to make it nice and clean. But now it's time to get into the whole reason that you even clicked on this list in the first place. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the way this works is first I go over the good, which are things that are just happy-go-lucky awesome about the car. Then second, I go with the bad, which are things that are are these bad or are they good? It's completely up to you if you like them or dislike them. And then we get into the ugly, which are things that you just cannot deny are bad about the car, and it just sucks. But we're going to start off with the good because I'm just a happy person. And right off the bat is the obvious reliability factor that the car has. It is a freaking Camry at heart, all right? So if you want that Toyota reliability while still having a sports car, once again, quotation marks around sports car, then this is a great choice. Next would be the all-around cost of the car is pretty much the same as a Camry. Once again, it makes sense because there was so many of these cars made and nobody really likes them, and they're pretty slow. They're not really a collector's car or anything like that, but still, it's a pretty good deal when you can find one of these cars for under like $3,000. That's a good one. Next would be daily driving, which kind of ties into reliability, but also since it's front-wheel drive and has a decent, I don't want to say good, but a decent amount of space, it makes it a great choice for just wanting to go to work and back on time. It's a little Toyota, man. They do their thing. And finally, for the good is going to be parts for it are dirt cheap. This is obvious, but the only thing that you might have troubles with is like the suspension components, since they're a tad bit different from the Camry. But I mean, if you're sharing parts with a Camry, your parts better be pretty damn cheap. But now it's time to get into the bad, which are subjective things. It's up to you if you dislike them or if you like them. And first off is the looks of it. I think that the second generation is not that bad, but still not my favorite car out there. And for the most part, there's pretty much barely any clean first gens out there. Once again, that's my opinion. If you like the car, that's great. I have no problem with that. If you think it looks cool, that's good. It's just not my personal favorite, that's all. And next would be the sound. Here's a listen. You decide. Much louder. Next is, even though it's obviously supposed to be a fun little daily driver, you're not going to be able to fit your kids into it unless you want to move your seat every single time you put it in there, since it's a coupe, and that's how coupes work. You have to move your seat to get to the back seats. And so yes, it was meant to be a little daily driver, but it's a daily driver for a teenager, not like an adult. Next is a lot, and I mean a lot of people say that the car has terrible build quality. So if you hate that stuff, then don't get the car. It has a lot of cracking noises, little creaks and little crevices, and the body lines don't line up perfectly, and all that little tiny stuff that you'll pick up on as the car's owner is going to be there, and you don't want that if you're like one of those nitpicky kind of guys. Me personally, I don't care. I honestly don't care at all, but most people, they do. So if you really care about how your car was like built and the quality of it, probably not the best choice for get a Scion T-Type. Next is going to be, apparently the fuel economy isn't that good either, which is shocking since I've said it before and I'll say it again, but it's pretty much a Camry. And next is, and this one's kind of sad, but I couldn't put it in the ugly because it's kind of up to you. Most of the car community might not accept you as a member of the community. I know it's stupid, but people are caught up on like the coolest, and I mean the coolest of builds nowadays, the ones that cost the most with $3,000 wheels and bags and basic ass, 350Zs and Mustangs and WRXs and stuff. And this car just isn't really too loved by the rest of the community. And so if you actually buy one of these things, people might not accept you. And I know that's dumb, and I'm sorry, I don't agree with this, but I just had to put it on there just to let you know. And finally, for the bad is the aftermarket support really isn't that large. It's kind of an underrated car, and because of it being so underrated, it didn't get much love from all the tuner companies. But now it's time to get into the ugly, and there's actually only 2 ugly points of it, which is a good thing because most cars have more than that. First is the big one, the obvious, the elephant in the room. They are slow. I mean, come on, man. It's 180 horsepower in a 2016 sports car that's front-wheel drive. That's very slow. An Altima, which is also front-wheel drive, has like 270 horsepower. That's a way better build if you're trying to go for speed. And yes, you can build the car to be something a little bit better, but it's kind of a waste of money, in my opinion, to build it. And finally, for the ugly, there's only two, like I said, is going to be, and this one's weird. I don't know why this is a problem. I feel like they should have had a recall for this, but the airbag doesn't deploy all the time when you crash. An airbag can literally be the difference between life and death sometimes. And if that airbag doesn't go off when it needs to, you could be in for a world of trouble. You don't want that. So check and make sure that the previous owner got their airbag problems fixed. I didn't think I'd ever have to say that, but I guess I do. Make sure that your airbags are gonna pop out when you need them to. So do I get one? So do I think you should get one? My bad. The short answer is not really. For daily driving, it seems like the car has too many problems to be a decent daily driver. Yes, it's very reliable when it comes to like mileage on the engine, but it seems like everything else is a little bit iffy on the car. A lot of people are saying that there's leaks for the car and that the airbag not going off is obviously something that you're not going to want to do. It doesn't have that much space, and if you're trying to daily drive it as a family car, that's a terrible idea too, because you can't really get to the back seats. So for daily driving, unless you're like a really young teenager, then I don't really think it's a great choice. For modding it, once again, not really, unless you're going for a show build, because show builds are completely subjective. It's completely up to you what you think looks cool. So if you're going for a show build and you think this car looks cool and you have plans for it, you want to lower it, put some nice wheels on it, or whatever you want to do to it, then don't let me stop you. But if you're going to want to be a drag racer, there's a bunch of better options. There is a reason why everybody goes with the Civic. Yes, it's basic, but it works. If you want to do a track car, once again, there are a bunch of better options. I hate to be that guy, but I just don't think that you should fix something that's not broken, is what I'm trying to say. But like I said, for show builds, absolutely. And for drift builds, if you're going to drift this car, then best of luck to you. Send me some videos, because that's impossible. All right, well, I took down my stand, so I'm holding it now. See my arm? I'm holding it now. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments down below what car you guys want to see next Sunday on the good, the bad, and the ugly. Tomorrow we have a POV driving video, but it's not just a POV driving video. I'm going to start using those as ways to kind of talk about the channel, my vlog. It's like a vlog. I'm going to tell you guys what I'm doing, but I'm going to drive a little bit. So I got one of those coming tomorrow, and I also did some drifting today, some street drifting POV once again, and that's going to come in a couple of days. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, like the video, comment the video, and subscribe if you want to see videos similar to this one. See ya. That's a Penguin Zoe reference, by the way. I don't know if you guys know Penguin Zoe or if you used to watch him, but that's what he used to do. I just thought I should put it out there. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Das Vidania, and have a nice night.